We have been waiting for this opportunity. We have been waiting for this chance, not as long as she was waiting for her very first kiss. Moriah Peters, how are you?
I am doing well. I'm happy to be in Edmonton.
There is so much that I want to ask you, but there's also things that you probably, after a long time, you're tired of answering those questions.
The answers always change, so not
Do they?
really.
The whole American Idol thing, has it made you grow as a person?
I think the auditioning process made me grow in my dependency on God like nothing had ever before, because it was such a intense couple of months. And it also taught me a bit about letting go and not, being consumed with getting my way and just going with whatever God leads. So I think I grew in those areas.
Did you know, or did you ever think that this was going to be your life? That, I mean, we'll talk about the whole marriage thing after, but just the fact that you have this musical career, that you, a California kid, that, it seems like everybody goes to California to become an actor or a singer. Is this what you thought it was going to be?
Not at all. No. I was almost the opposite. Just did not even want to be involved in singing programs or hated theater class, stuff like that. And I wanted to be a lawyer. That's what I had my sights set on. My dad's a judge, and I got into a law program, and I was headed that way. And the American Idol process was something that I went into with my heels in the ground. My mom kind of encouraged me to do it. So this is not at all what I thought my life would be, but it's so much better than I could have ever dreamt it to be.
I think back to growing up in Rebecca St. James was about purity. And I remember seeing her many times and, preach about it and talk about it. When you think about where you are now, is that something that you want to continue to tell girls about purity, or don't kiss anybody, or what is the message that you want to have to girls now?
I think it's less about purity and it's more about grace for me. Nowhere in the Bible does it say, "Thou shalt not kisseth thou husband until the day of thy wedding." So, with that not really being a command, who am I to tell anybody to do that? That's just something that personally I feel like God has convicted me from the time that I was really young to do that, and He's given my now husband and I the strength to do that, to fulfill that. But I really believe in sharing about God's grace, because I think, truth be told, a lot of girls do want to have a healthy, romantic, wonderful relationship, whether it be, whether their standard is a fairy tale or their parents or a couple in a movie or whatever. Nobody wants to be disrespected. Nobody wants to give themselves away physically in any way. But unfortunately, a lot of times we get trapped into that. So I don't think there's any need for me necessarily to reinforce something that's innate within us. I think something that God has called me to do is to encourage girls who have made mistakes, who have messed up, who understand what that guilt feels like, and to say, God is all about grace, not about guilt. And, it's never too late to start over. That's what Christ died for. That's the whole point.
Are you got to be a humble individual, because I bet you there are a lot of girls who come up to you and say, I'm going through this, I was doing this is how, or I've been through this, and they come up to you and say, listen, I heard your song, I heard you talk about this, and man, it has really changed my life. How do you deal with something like that?
Honestly, that is, I count those as blessings. Obviously it's good to have accountability in those moments and have friends like my bandmates and my family that remind me, hey, this is not about you. This is not about what you've done. It's about what Christ has done and what He's doing in you and through you. But this life of traveling and touring and, you would know, ministry and work at the same time, it's one of the most difficult things to balance. And it's exhausting, it's tiring at times, and it's those kinds of conversations that kind of refuel me, and the Lord knows that. So I'm always encouraged and blessed, and just I think it fuels my gratitude, if anything.
I want to talk about music. I want to talk about the first kiss. But first, how did you meet your husband?
At his brother's wedding.
Okay, so you looked across and your eyes met, and the harps were playing in the background. Is that what it was like? Or he pretty much walked up and says, "Hey, you want to dance?"
If I say this story,
No, you
he's
have
gonna
to.
kill me.
No. He told me that it was okay that you told this story. He actually had said.
It makes him look bad, but
No,
he's not
it
a bad
doesn't.
person.
This is perfect. This is what we want to. We want to
Okay.
get down
The
the
nitty-gritty.
honesty that is.
Okay, so I showed up at this wedding. Our mutual friend had been talking him up the whole time, just like, oh, this is an amazing man who loves the Lord and just sings so great, so handsome, chiseled jaw, and an Australian accent. And I'm like, all right, this guy has got to have a big head, and I'm going to put him in his place. So that's the kind of modus operandi that I had going into this wedding. And I see him, and he is very charismatic, as you know, and he was surrounded by like 5 different women, having kind of conversation with all of them at the same time.
Of course, sounds like him. Of course.
We had to stand in line
Yeah.
to talk to him. And as I'm standing there waiting, the anger inside of me is just fueling, raging. I'm like, who is this guy? And so all that being said, I completely misinterpreted who he was in those first moments, and was really quite rude to him the whole time. I think I said something like, why do you talk like that? Do you think it's cool or something that you have an Australian accent? Like, why do you talk like that?
Wow.
Isn't that mean?
That's well.
Such a
You went
terrible
into the
person.
relationship honest.
But truly grossly misinformed.
So okay, so you started dating. One thing led to another, and you got engaged. You've been waiting for this first kiss. And I think by the age of 4, I experienced my first kiss, and then every year after. Did you, and I know we're going to get a little personal, did you practice in the mirror? Did you look at yourself in the mirror? How did it, you know what I mean?
I'm not going to lie, I was a little nervous. I mean, when you have your own pastor telling you need to kiss because it's a natural progression, and you have your friend showing you TLC videos of virgin weddings, people kissing and sucking each other's faces off, it's a little alarming. I did practice on my hand, not going to lie. That was probably the one thing I was most nervous about on the wedding day. But I was actually nervous about it going into being engaged. You know, like I said, when you have people telling you things like it's a natural progression, and, you start having doubts in your own heart, in your own mind, like, okay, is this going to be too drastic of a jump here? Like, and the thing that I just kept coming back to every time that my fiance then talked about it was, there was something in me that just felt like God was saying, just wait. And it didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, I love this guy. We're getting married. Like, let's just kiss, it's not law, like, let's kiss. It's fine. And for those who have kissed, like you, since you were 4.
Now you make me sound bad.
Mr. Player. No, it's totally, like, that's not a bad thing. I would never want to come across as like, if you've kissed somebody, it's a terrible thing. It's not. It's just something that God personally convicted us as a couple about. So when we waited and we had our first kiss, which was beautiful and amazing, and there was zero awkwardness, zero discomfort. It was just wonderful. Such a wonderful, wonderful wedding and moment at the altar. But I realized in that moment, and God has continued to answer the question of why, why did we have to wait? I realize it's because God wants to use our story as an example of what he can do. I mean, it's impossible. It's an impossible thing to not kiss somebody as handsome as Joel and somebody that I love that much.
I find it difficult sometimes.
You feel me. You feel my pain.
I understand.
But it just goes to show you that when you make purity a priority and when you ask God for strength in those moments, like, he gives it, and he gives it willingly and freely and overwhelmingly.
Well, you now get to experience a lifetime of firsts with him, first kiss, marriage, and everything else that goes along with marriage, which is great. Let's finish with talking about music and your album and singles and all that stuff. Is this everything that you hoped it was going to be?
Everything and more, much more. It's been a very, very challenging process. It's been one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life, and it kind of seems like, to those who may be watching, people who are a fan of different artists or of music and who aspire to have that lifestyle, you can sometimes think like, oh, you just go in a studio and write songs all day and you produce a CD and you go to travel all over the world and have a bunch of people just coming at you, loving on you, and it seems on the outside like a kind of walk in the park. And to be honest, when I first stepped into it, that's what I thought it was going to be. But I think whenever people have the potential to make an impact for the kingdom of God, the enemy comes against them. And this has been the most challenging thing, like I said, but it's also been the most rewarding thing. With writing the record, Brave, I had to come to grips with a lot of fears that I had, even fears in becoming engaged. I was so nervous about that and scared of love, scared of vulnerability. And God has just continued to hold my hand and carry me through every single trial and every single moment of facing a fear.
So what's next? What is on the list of things to do? Continue writing, working on new stuff. When are we going to have a For King and Country and Moriah Peters album? I'm waiting for all of this to happen.
I'll let you in on a little secret.
Okay, let's do it. I feel this is good.
When Joel and I first met, we wrote a song together called I'll Wait For You, Love. And that's how we got to know each other. That's how the walls sort of came down. We sort of built our relationship on this song about waiting for love. That song is going to be on my new record that comes out in July. It's called Brave. And he was actually a co-writer and co-producer on pretty much the whole record. So it was a very fun, creative process. And what's next is that I'm going out on a couple tours, going out on a tour in the month of August with Air One Radio, and I'm really excited about going out on a tour this fall with a band called Ren Collective Experiment. And then for Christmas, if you're not able to catch any of those shows, you can come visit a Christmas tour that I'm going to be on with a band called Newsboys.
Moriah, we appreciate you. We can't wait to hear the new album coming out in July, Brave, and just continue to do God's work. And God bless you and your husband, and we'll hopefully hear from you soon.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Moriah Peters.